Hello and happy weekend. Happy Salah to the Muslims watching this tutorial. I'm happy to have you back, and I'm sorry that I have to post this video after a long interval. It's just like I have a very busy schedule in my team and also working with clients on their projects. Okay, so let's pick it up from where we stopped in the last class. So in the last class, we created several charts. Okay, we are yet to name our charts. I said we're going to do the formatting after we are done creating all of the charts. Okay, so I hope you still remember everything we did in the last class. If you can't remember, make sure to check the video from the last class. So let's go to the next business question for today. So the next business question on the training effectiveness and ROI is to know, how does the average training cost compare between internal versus external training programs? So let's go to our data set to see what that means. I'll first check my data set, and you can see in the data set we have training cost. That means we are going to get the average for the training cost by the internal. So we have the training program here, but we have training type, which contains the internal and external. So I can click on this drop down to make sure that I only have two categories and there's no data set to clean. You can see from the drop down we only have two categories, internal, external. Okay, and I believe we are good to go. So we want to see the training type by the training cost basically. So I'll come here to the report view and create a new page. In this new page, I want to come here to the training type. Okay, I'll check it. Training type, you can see external, internal, and then we have the training cost. Sorry, training cost. Remember, we are trying to get the average for the training cost. So I can click on this drop down and change it to average. Okay, so once I change it to average, I can use like a pie chart to represent that. Now you can see that for the training type, we have more average training cost for the internal training type compared to the external training type. Okay, so this is just a visual representation to answer this business question that we were asked right here. And you know, another beautiful thing is we might decide that, okay, to show the internal versus external training program, we want to show it in form of KPI. I told you what KPI means, which is key performance indicator. Okay, so if you want to write it out like in form of KPI, like just showing the actual value, then we can create a measure writing DAX to get this out. How can we do that? Okay, so let me just show you how you can do that just in case you need to like create a KPI or something like that. So let's just add that in a new worksheet. What I'm basically trying to do is, you see this internal, I want to have it separately, the value separately in a card. The external, I want to have its value separately in a card. It stands on its own, okay? So I can come here now to create a new measure. So in my new measure, I'm going to create a separate measure for average cost for the internal training type. This is just like the header, the title we are giving our measure. So average for the internal, we are now going to calculate. So we use the calculate function. Okay, so what are we calculating? We want to calculate the average for the training cost, right? So here you're going to look for the column for training cost. This is the column. So it's just going to include the name of the data table. Then in this bracket, it's going to put the column we are working with. So we want to calculate the average for this training cost. Okay, so after doing that, we want to segment the category that we want to calculate for. So now I'm going to call for the data set and look for the training type column. So we have the training type column here. I want to say where the training type, something like using the where clause. I want to calculate for internal in this scenario. So I'll close the quotes and close the bracket. Let me recap what I did here in this measure. I want to calculate the average training cost where the training type is internal. Okay, so that's the measure I want to create, and this will be the measure title. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the average for the external one. So let me just copy this ahead so I don't have to type all over again. So I'll press the enter key. Once I press the enter and I scroll up, can you see that the average internal is now created using this DAX formula? Okay, so if I check this average internal now, okay, let's change it to a card. Okay, so card will just write it like this. So you can see what I'm saying now. It's just going to give us the value. So we can just have this value somewhere on our dashboard, somewhere around here, just to show that, okay, the average total cost for internal training type is this. And then we can have another one for the average for the external. So I can create a new measure. Remember, I copied it the other time, so I'm going to paste it. I'm just going to call this external. So now we are still getting the average training cost, but this time not for the internal, but the external. So you can see now that we've created another measure for the average external cost, okay? So now let's check this box as well. You can see it's created average external, and I can change it to a card. You can see now that we'll now have two different more like KPIs showing us for the average internal, which is 561.05, the average cost for internal type, and the average cost for external type. So those are some of the things you can use the measure for, okay? But this is actually what I'm going to use for this tutorial. I just wanted to show you in case you need to do some calculation. So using DAX in Power BI is like a whole topic on its own. And after this project, I'm going to create a video that will just familiarize you with how to write some of the simple DAX. So our next business question is on diversity and inclusion. Okay, so the first one says that, is there any noticeable performance or engagement gap across gender, race, or marital status? And do training outcomes vary significantly by gender, race, or age group? So we can just add this as filters, the gender to just filter out by gender, the race, the marital status, or the age group, in order to gain insights into the diversity and inclusion. So let's come back to our data sets. We don't need to create a new chart for that diversity and inclusion section. All we have to do is add filter to the data that we already created. You can see this one is talking about the how many employees we have by their departments and the satisfaction score basically. So if we had filter based on like the gender, the marital status, then we can see that, okay, how many single people do we have? How many married? What's the age group for this? Do you understand? So we can just use it as filter to gain insight into it. Okay, so how can we add filter now? We want to start by using the marital status. Let me see, marital descending. Okay, so that's like the married single. So we can check the category to make sure that there's no data cleaning that we have to do. You can see divorced, married, single, widowed. Okay, so now we can come back to our chart, and let me just drag the marital status to the filter. So this is to add filter to only this page that we are currently in. If you want to add this marital filter to the entire page that we currently have, so we can drop it in this entire page. And then you can see it's going to show us the basic filtering. We can decide to see for everything, which is what we currently have here. I can say, okay, let me see for only people that are divorced. Let's say we want to see for people that are married, then you can check that. You can see, so for people that are married, you can see their count, you can see their satisfaction score by their department type. Okay, you can say, okay, let's see for the people that are single. You can see that. So this is how you can just basically add filter. So I can select single selection. So I can't select two at a time. It's just gonna move it. Okay, so this is how to add filter basically to your data set. And if you want to remove the filter, you just deselect it. You can see, so this is showing us for everything now. But see now, if I check the married, it's going to affect the other pages. You can see that I can still see this filter on the other pages because we added it to all the pages. We didn't put it in this section for only the page. Okay, so we can do married here too. Let's see the married people. We can see that married people, the average work-life balance by department for married people, they have more work-life balance in the executive office. And people that are in the software engineering department, they don't really have work-life balance. The work-life balance is very, very low. That might be because software engineering requires more time and more technical, right? For the diversity and inclusion, we can see the marital status is not the only thing they said we should use. They said we should check by the race. So this is the for the race. So we are gonna add that. I'm gonna do single selection as well for here. So let's say we want to see the black people, the count of ID by employee type for the black. For the Asian, you can see it. So we can just use the filter to segment whatever we want to see in this section. Okay, what else are we supposed to add? I mean, like we created a column for age group the other time, right? So this is it here. So we can also add the age group as filter. So we can say, okay, we want to see for the old people, right? After selecting the old people, let's close this section. Maybe we want to see for the old married people what's going on with them. Okay, so you can see that we have more old people that are married in the production department, okay, and they have like more satisfaction score. Okay, so this is how we can just add filters to gain insight into the particular area that we want to see. So I'm just going to add the gender column to the filter for all the data. So now we can check for female. So let's say we want to know how female are doing, how male is doing. And from here, you can see that the count of male is like 628. The count of female is 783. So you can see we have more female from this filter breakdown. Okay, that is basically how we can add filter. So the filter will appear on all the pages because that is what we specified, and then we can add filter to just like have a breakdown whatever we want to gain insights into basically. Now let's move to the next business question. Our next business question is on tenure and life cycle analysis, and it says that how does length of service relate to performance and training outcome? The length of service is more like how many years like a staff has stayed in our company. How does it relate to how they perform and the training they had, the outcome of the training? How does it relate to it? Okay, so now we go back to our data set and check what we have. Do we have like the start date when when the employee started working with us and the end date when they stopped working with us? So we are going to get how many years the employee has currently worked in our company. So now from the data set, you can see we have start date. That means this date the employee started working with us. Okay. Do we have anything like end date? Um, Okay, so this is training dates when they started the training. We don't have anything like end dates when the employees stopped working with us. So I believe the employees are still working with us till now because we don't have that in the data set. So I'm going to assume they are still working with us. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is we are gonna create a new column. In this new column, we are going to get this start date. We are going to calculate the difference between this start date and the current date, which is like today's date. Okay, so because they are still working with us and we are working on this project today, that means that as at today they are still working in our company. So we are going to get how many years each employee has been working with us using this technique. I hope you understand that. Okay, so now we are going to create a new column. We can create the new column from here, and we can come here, come under modeling and create the new column. Okay, so you can do any one that you wish. So I'm going to create a new column here. So this new column, I'm going to call it, should we call it years or tenure? Let's just call it tenure, or let me just put in bracket years. So now we are trying to calculate the date difference. So there's a function we use for date difference. We just calculate the difference between two dates. In Power BI, you use dated div. Okay, so we're going to use the dated div function. So what difference are we calculating? We want to know the difference between the dates, between the start dates. So we are going to look for the start date column here. That's from this extra bracket at the front. So you can see from this data set, we are picking the start date. Okay, I'm going to do comma. So now you can see from here now, it's like dated div, date 1, which is the start date. What is the date 2? We are saying that today is date 2. So we can use the now function. Okay? So we are calculating the difference between the date they started and today. Okay, and then I'm going to do comma. The interval, how do you want the interval calculated? I want it to be in year, because we are trying to calculate the tenure they used. So that's in years. Okay, so I'm just going to do year to press the enter key, and it's already created the column as you can see here. So if we go back to our data set, let's confirm that column is created and is correct. So you can see 6, 7, 3, 2. Let's confirm this fourth one, which is 6. We are currently in 2025. I'm recording this video June 2025, okay? And the start date for this employee is 2019. So 2025 minus 2019 will give us 6 years. And this one will give us 7 years. So if we check it, we can see that it calculated it perfectly and correctly. So this employee has stayed with our company, has worked in our company for a total of 6 years. This other employee has worked for 7 years. And you can see each employee, some has worked 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and on like that. So we've created another column to calculate the tenure that each employee has used in our company. All right, so that's just by the way to answer the business question. The actual thing that the business question asked us to do is to get the length of service relating to the performance and training outcome. Okay, the only thing we've gotten is the length of service. How does it now relate to their performance and training outcome? Let's get that. So now I'm going to create a new page. In this new page, I want to call for the tenure. Okay, so let's check the tenure. Okay, I want to also see the training outcome. I'll check the training outcome. Let me expand this. Okay, so this is just showing me like the sum of tenure by the training outcome. So what I want to do is, I'm not trying to calculate the sum of tenure, all right? I'm going to drag the sum of tenure to the x-axis, and I'm going to drag the training outcome to the y-axis, okay? So now we can see that these are the employees that worked with us for 2 years, and the count of their training outcome is this. Okay, but another thing I want to do is I want to add the training outcome to the legend, okay, because we have different categorical data in the training outcome column. So now you can see that for the employee that used 2 years, this is the number of people that completed the course, this is the number of people that passed, this is the number of people that did not complete, and this is the number of people that failed. So we can seems like we have more employee that has worked for us for a total of 3 years. And see the count of training outcome by the years. We can see that this employee that has used 3 years, 84 people completed the course, 87 people failed, 70 people did not complete it, 63 people passed. Okay, so now from the business question, it says that the length of service relates to the performance and training outcome. We've related it to the training outcome. How about the performance? The performance can be related to the ratings of the employee. I use the average rating to determine the employee's performance. Okay, so now I'm going to pick this chart, this line and clustered column chart. And in the line chart, I want to include the employee, current employee ratings. So in the line chart, I want to include the current employee rating. So you can see that currently is showing the sum. So I want to show the average. Okay, so you can see now that employees that have used 4 years in our company has high ratings, high average ratings of 3.0. Can you see that? Employee that has used 6 years in our company has high ratings of 2.98. Employees that are like 2 years in our company has a very low rating. Can you see that? They have 2.86 ratings compared to the other years. So this just basically explains the tenure and life cycle analysis. Okay, so we are going to gain insights from all of this analysis and put it into our report to our stakeholders gain insights into the analysis that we have done. So now let's move to the next business question. The last section of the business question is about cost optimization. Okay, so the first business question under this cost optimization section is, which business unit are spending the most on training without seeing performance improvement? So we want to know the business unit spending the most amount, that is the training cost is like very high without seeing performance improvement. Because obviously as a company, if we are investing heavily into training our staff, that means we are expecting their performance to improve in return. So if their performance is not improving, then what is the essence of investing in training? All right. Okay, and before we go into that, if you're yet to join the paid community, there's something that we are about to start in the paid community. Okay, aside all the benefits that you get from joining the paid community, we are basically working with a business on real world projects. When I mean real world projects, I don't mean the scenarios we are creating in class, but we are actually providing a data solution for a company itself. So this solution that we are providing, when we are done providing it, if the business adopts the solution, that means they get to add that to their work experience. And I'm going to be the project manager for these projects that we are about to start. So if you're not in the paid community yet, make sure you join the paid community before we get started with this project. Okay, so now let's see how we can answer this first business question on the cost optimization. So first, we want to know the business unit spending the most on training, that's the training cost, without seeing performance improvements. A lot of things can determine the performance improvements. We have the performance score in the data set, and we also have the employee ratings. So these are the two things that we can use to judge the performance of the employee. Okay, so let's see in our data set whether we have the business unit. You can see right here we have a column for the business unit, which we are going to use, and we have a column for training cost, which we've used severally. Okay, and then we have a column for the employee ratings and also the performance score. So this performance score is more like a categorical data. You can create another column and say that if it is exceeds, then it should be 5. So you can rate the one that is I 5, fully meets should be 4, it needs improvement should be like 3, PIP should be like 2, you understand? So you can create another column so that you'll be able to calculate the average of the performance score. Okay, so instead of using the performance score in this case, I'm just going to use the employee ratings, which is already a numerical data. I'm going to create a new page. Now we want to know the business unit. That's the first thing. All right. The business unit by the training cost. We want to know the business units taking the most training cost. Okay. Their performance improvements. So first, let's change this one to a chart. Let's say I want to use this chart. Okay, so this is the business units by their total training cost. You can see that it looks like PBC takes the most training cost, while MSC takes the least training cost. PBC taking the most training cost now, we are expecting that it gives us a very high performance rate. The employees in the business units, PBC gives us a very high performance rate. That is what we are expecting as a business, right? So let's check now if they actually do that. So let's see the employee ratings right here. Okay, so I'm supposed to move the employee ratings to the line chart axis. Okay, so let me use the average of the employee ratings. You can see that using the average employee ratings, it is not nice for PBC, because imagine spending a lot of money for their training costs and we are getting these improvements in their employee ratings. Doesn't make sense, right? Let's change this to average so we are not biased in our analysis. If we change the training cost to the average training cost, you can see that WL has the highest training cost followed by PBC. And you can still see that PBC is high and it has very low employee ratings. And PL is the one with like average with average training cost of 557 and has a high, I mean, compared to other categories, right? PL has a high employee rating. Okay, and if we want to make like future decisions, we can focus more on PL because PL is doing well, right? PL is doing well. I believe SVG is also doing well in terms of employee ratings, and these are the business units that we are not even spending so much. Like the average training cost that we are spending is very little. Okay, so these are some that we should focus on, and we can check in on other business units. What is going on? Why is the employee ratings in this business unit low? Okay, so these are some things that we could check in. Okay, and let's go on to answer the last business question under the cost optimization section, which brings us to the end of answering the business question for this particular project. So now, what is the average training cost per department or employee classification type? We want to know the average training cost per department. Okay, let's create a new page and go to the department section. So we have department type. Okay, so what's the question again? The question says that the average training cost per department. Okay, so what is the average training cost? We can come here to the training cost section and change it to the average. So let's see if the pie chart will work. Let me do average now. Okay, so I don't like that. It looks clumsy. So we can see now the average training cost by each department We can see that software engineering is having the highest training cost and sales has the least training cost. We can use this type of charts, and you can use any type of chart. If you don't want this one, you can explore different type of charts. You see this one, this is not even good for the visuals because it's looking almost the same. Okay, so we can just keep it at this funnel. We can just leave it at this funnel. Okay, and now we've answered the last business question. If you want to answer the one by employee classification type, you can create another chart to see the average training cost by the employee classification type. Let's see what we have in the employee classification type column. Employee classification type is just looking inspecting employees that are working full-time, part-time, and temporary, and checking the average training cost for each of them. So if we have like temporary employee and we are spending very high training cost on them, then maybe we are not getting it right. Maybe we need to do something about it, right? Yeah. By the training cost. Okay, so let's change the chart. Let's see what we have. Imagine this is not good for us. Okay, let's do average before we judge. So for the training cost, we can see that we are spending more for the part-time staffs, temporary staff, followed by the full-time staff. And in the real sense, we should be actually spending more on the full-time staff because these are the people that will stay with us. Temporary staffs can leave at any time. Part-time staffs also have other engagements, maybe with other companies and other projects, right? So we should focus on the training cost, so we should be investing more training costs on full-time employees. So these are some of the insights we help businesses, whatever kind of sector the business is or the company is. This is how we help them gain insights, and we provide them with what is currently going on in their company and what they can do better, what they should do better. Okay, so this is the end of creating charts and basically answering the business question that we have. Next up, we are going to go into the creation of dashboard, reports, recommendation, giving our conclusions and recommendations based on all of the insights that we gain. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, make sure you subscribe, and any video you're watching, make sure you like it. That's the only way to show me that, okay, whatever you're teaching us, we understand it and we love what you do. All right? So I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye for now.